This is something that I found out, well, through a variety of sources, but more recently through Gallup. They did an article at the beginning of the year talking about the impact of on employee engagement in 2022 and what that meant for turnover across the United States. How many people do you think left a job voluntarily in 2022? In all the units? 50.5 million? Yeah, I know which pull that answer up. She got it. So that was the number reported by, I believe, CNBC. And so 2021 was supposedly the Great Resignation. However, they had fewer voluntary quits, according to the Department of Labor and Statistics. So that's just on the voluntary turnover piece. There were two groups of people that probably had the highest amount of voluntary turnover and the biggest drop in employee engagement. The first group is kind of a cheater group. It's all the folks who work in a job that can be done remotely, but their organization said you've got to come into the office anyway. So they had the highest amount of drop in employee engagement and the highest number of people quitting their jobs. The second highest group is an actual industry. Can you guess who it is? Healthcare, yeah. And it's because you're coming off of COVID, yes. A pandemic took its toll. The needs of our communities took its toll. A variety of other reasons also took its toll. And people are tired. And then also looking around like, well, who else is hiring? Who can pay more? Who can only work, flexible shifts? Whatever the reason is, healthcare took a toll. So here are the numbers of the drop from 2020 to 2022 in engaged employees. So this is across the U.S. 36% of employees were engaged at work. It dropped a little bit in 2021, down to 34%, and a little bit more in 2022, down to 32%. There's even this ratio of engaged employees to disengaged employees. Now, disengaged employees are the ones that they really don't want to come to work. They're either actively bad-mouthing the organization, they are not volunteering for things, they're doing just enough to not get caught not doing their job in a sense. I think the modern phrase is the quiet quitter. But sometimes they're the active quitter too, like they just show up, get a paycheck, and they essentially quit, and they're not doing what they should. At least morale drops because of these guys, right? Now, in 2020, for every 2.6 engaged employees you had one that was disengaged. It dropped a bit. In 2021, it was almost 2 to 1. And in 2022, 1.8 to 1. So engagement is dropping. At least it was from 2020 to 2021. And organizations are doing a lot to reverse that as best they can. Now Gallup is like, hey, this sounds like a great reason for a survey. So they did. They surveyed a lot of folks around the US, asking them, why did you leave your job? And these were the top 5 reasons they gave. There was a lack of clarity on expectations. What do I do? How do I do it? When do I get it done by? Also expectations on career growth. So lack of clarity. Lack of connection with the mission and purpose of the organization. How does my work feed into the bigger picture of the organization? Or, and this is kind of the double-edged sword of working from home, I don't know anybody at work. I don't feel connected to the people there. So it's like, wait, but you want to work from home. So what's that balance there? Opportunities to learn and grow. So how do I grow in my current job, in the current organization I'm in? Opportunities to use untapped skills. How do I show my organization I know how to do this, or lead this project, or have these skill sets that will move me up to another level? Or even if I don't want to move up to another level, I can help the organization if I get to use these skills that I have. And then the big one that stood out to me, employees just did not feel cared for by their leaders, by the organization, by their coworkers, and so on. So that's what the employees are saying. Now, The ones that really stood out to me were the bottom three. As I started to talk with HR leaders, managers of people, just like the folks in this room, specifically in healthcare as well, what I learned was a lot of organizations are doing these three things to try to curb what I just showed you. Compensation adjustments. What is the market rate? What is going to make us competitive in the labor market? And make adjustments for that. So people saw some pay raises. Career pathways is a big trend that HR is working on. If I come into a healthcare system as a CNA or a patient care technician, but I have dreams to become a nurse practitioner or CNO or run a health system, how do I get there? And of course, the easy one is how do I go in at an entry level to RN? It's like, oh, we can do that all day. Let's go here, get this, get this, get this, or we can bypass to do this. But getting to the leadership roles, a little bit more of a ping pong, pinball game, right? For those who've gotten there. Training resources. What kind of formal training programs do we have to develop our employees? Their soft skills, their negotiation skills. I guess those are soft skills. Our emerging leaders, those who are going to become supervisors or just became supervisors. Now, these are great things. Do they have their limitations? A little bit, depends. Some of these, if you want to do them really well, they take time to develop, they take more time to implement, more time to communicate it out there that it's available, and you might lose people in the process. So when I was talking to managers, people I've worked with, people I've never worked with before, and I asked them, what keeps you up at night when it comes to employee engagement? Here are the top 3 responses they gave me. When it comes to compensation adjustments, it never seems to be enough. And no one's ever really, I can't make everybody happy with that. And I've been around, I've seen some healthcare organizations where they can only do adjustments for maybe one specific job category or 2. Then everybody else is like, well, what about us? You know, we're the people who zap radiation to people so you can see what's going on inside the body. What about us in the corporate side? You know, whatever it is, someone's not happy. A colleague of mine, who is a senior leader in talent management, shared with me some of the research he's come across is that when it comes to somebody who is disengaged, actively disengaged, compensation is going to make them happy for about 2 weeks. It's like, well, and you're all nodding your head, so you've seen this. And it's like, oh man, that hurts. The other one is, what can I do now? Like, these programs are great, I can't wait for them. But this leadership development program doesn't come around for another 6 months. And I want to develop this person now. What can I do now as a manager, as a director? Or they're asking, what can I do now to help keep my people from burning out? What kind of conversations can I have? So that's what managers were saying as a theme. And I started to see like this convergence of the overall problem. People are leaving, they're not engaged as much. Organizations are doing their best to keep up with the infrastructure needed to support employees and leaders. And you got the managers right there on the ground who want to lead these folks past this season we're going through. So I don't think we're going to stay disengaged in the workplace forever. We're going to find that equilibrium again. The key is you want to be the organization that gets there first, right? Because then you get all the top talent. Nobody wants to leave you. And I mean, you already have that going on because I was looking at some bios before I came here. And you got some leadership that's been here and seen this organization grow. And there's something about the culture that keeps that going. So we're going to focus on, for the rest of the afternoon, what can you do in this room to help your team? Sorry, just getting my breath back. So that's the problem we want to face. That's the problem we want to take on. How do we get there? I got this cool analogy because I'm a big fan of servant leadership, but there are 7 pillars to servant leadership, and I can't remember a single one. I got the gist of it. And I was on a rock march the other day, believe it or not. And maybe it was like halfway through when the heat was starting to get to me, and I was regretting that I was going in the afternoon instead of the morning. I live in Texas. What's wrong with me? And it hit me. Why don't you get like some shade, like in a tent? It's a tent. Yes. And then there was an acrostic. And it brings all those principles, those pillars of servant leadership together. So why a tent? Now, I may have mentioned, I don't know if I mentioned, I served in the U.S. Army. The military likes to use tents for their command centers. So they'll set up a tent, they'll put their communications equipment in there, they get all that information coming in, they organize it, and they get it back out to the people in the field. And that tent is mobile. So it might be on the border of Kuwait and Iraq 1 minute, and then at a town called Al-Zaria within 24 hours, and then the Karbala Gap 72 hours after that. It's mobile. Wherever you need it to be, it's there. So that leadership group goes where it needs to go. Tents are also versatile. You can set up in different variations to meet the need of the environment you're in. So there's that. But then I'm talking specifically about staking out your leadership tent, and this reminds me of one of my first experiences in the U.S. Army. I was fresh out of basic training. I just gone through my medic training at Fort Sam Houston in San Antonio, and they flew me to a place called Germany. Because when they asked me for my top 3 places to go, I said Germany, Germany, Germany. They said, great, that takes care of outside the U.S. Where do you want to go inside the U.S.? Germany, Germany, Germany. And they're like, why? I'm like, because I was a broke college kid when I joined and I want to travel. If you put me in Germany, I get to do that. I did not know they were going to send me to Kosovo almost immediately. Because I volunteered. I was like, yeah, I'll be a part of that team that's going to Kosovo. Great, you're the first one. But to get ready for Kosovo, they sent me off to my first training exercise. And it was a medical field unit. They had to set up 4 tents to run their operations. 2 for sleeping, 1 for the command post, 1 for the actual aid station. And I remember out there in the wintertime, I'm in my gear, I've got my M16 on my back, I'm like, I'm doing Army stuff. Yeah, this is cool. And they're like, dude, get over here. I'm like, yes, that's right. So I was a loading soldier. So I was with like 11 other soldiers, there were 12 of us. And I remember it took us 2 hours to get our first tent up, this medium-sized tent, and another hour to get the camouflage netting over it. I was like, yeah, did Army stuff. And they're like, Dugan, we got 3 more of these. Yeah, isn't it lunchtime? They're like, no, get over here. So we set up 3 more. 12 hours later, we got all 4 tents up. We were so tired, they said, great, we'll set up the actual aid station tomorrow so we can take patients. I thought, wow, we're going to be here 24 hours. We can't take a single patient. This is Army stuff. This is so cool. So 3 weeks go by. We finish the exercise. We have our after-action review from the observer. And he asks us, so how do you feel about how you set up your area of operation? And the commander's like, we did good. With what we had, with who we had, we got that thing set up in record time. And I watched the observer's face go, try not to laugh. And we were proud. He said, great. It took you an average of 3 hours to get up 1 tent. Who would like to know the Army standard? Nobody put their hand up. Except my friend, he's a smart aleck. He's like, yeah, I want to know. So again, 12 people, 3 hours per tent. Do you know what the Army standard was? 4 people in 15 minutes or less. My heart sank. I did not feel like a cool gung-ho soldier anymore. I was like, what kind of unit I'm going to war with? We're all going to die. And my squad leader said, don't worry, we're not going with these guys. We're going with another unit, and they're way better. Thank you, I was a little worried there. So, the observer, who's also now our instructor, shares with us, how many of you got camping before? Okay, cool. It's okay to be proud of it. Yeah. What's the fastest way and easiest way to get your tent up? Get cabin? Okay. I'm weird, I'm not doing that. I think I hear it over here. You put the stakes in first, is that what you're saying? Yes. You stake the corners out first, and then you put it up. And when he said that, I watched 40 of us go, ah. Because we took 8 of us to get the poles up first, while somebody in charge yelled at the 4 guys in the corners, now put up the corners! And we kept like flopping over and stuff. So, yeah, the fastest way to get your leadership up, your leadership tent that is, this framework of servant leadership are these 4 stakes, these 4 characteristics that if you apply them in how you do everything as a leader, you're going to find that your team trusts you more, feels cared for, and sees opportunities for growth. So the first one is trust building. That's the first stage. Ta-da! And I can't really stick this in the ground because this is the actual floor. Second stage, empowering. So with empowering, I'll tell you a little bit more about that. And for the note takers, this is page 3 in your packet. Third stage, navigating for success. So helping your team navigate their careers for success. And then the fourth one, thriving together. Thriving together. That's the fun part. If you're like an eye on a disc and you're at that party waiting for a place to happen, this is your favorite part, the thriving together. So, I've got my stakes in the ground. I got my one trekking pole. I should be able to prop this thing right up, right? All by myself. I don't need 4 other people to help me. Yeah, Terry, that's all right. Yes. I'll be here all day. Now, don't jump on that. That is very fragile. It needs additional guidelines and stuff. And if you want to take a picture in it later, you're welcome to. Just make sure you get it out. I tried it earlier. I was like, that was a bad idea. So, I mentioned 4 states. The first one, trust building. Now, there are a lot of skills that you can employ as a manager and as a leader, and just as a person in general, to build trust, right? How many have heard of Patrick Lencioni's 5 dysfunctions of a team? What's that number 1 reason why you have a dysfunction in the team? A lack of trust. And so if you want to jot in your notes, think about some of the ideas and practices that your leaders have done with you that built your trust with them. And chances are you quickly thought of the ways that a leader in the past violated your trust. Now, later in this session, we'll cover one activity, one thing you can put in your toolkit that'll allow you to consistently build trust with your team, with anybody you're looking to hire, anybody you're trying to recast a vision to, and even for yourself. Empowering. I like to think there are 2 components to empowerment. The first one is empowering the voice of your team. So everybody on your team, they have diverse ideas, diverse backgrounds, diverse perspectives, and when you empower their voice, you draw those ideas and that feedback out of them and their perceptions out of them. What does that do for the level of decision making you have? Go up or down? Up, yeah. The quality of your decisions go up because now you have more information, more perspectives, and you know how your decisions are going to impact others. The other way you empower others is in their actions, by sharing your power with them. And we'll talk about delegation a little bit later as well. So empowering's got 2 pieces, empowering the voice, empowering their actions and decisions. I guess that's 3, huh? I like to lump actions and decisions together, because to me deciding is an action. Navigating for success. Think about somebody in your life, in your career, who's helped you move ahead in your career. Was that person a mentor to you? Do they provide you with feedback and coaching that help build you up? So your coaching skills, your feedback skills are very big on helping somebody navigate for success. Even the annual performance review. Do you do annual performance reviews here? Question I probably should ask Belle. She's not invested. Yeah. I know some folks see that as like, I gotta check the box so Belle stops bugging me, or HR stops bugging me, or so my president doesn't say anything to me. But if you look at that performance review as an opportunity to truly give feedback for how the year went, and then empower your employee to share with you their perspective of how the year went, and then draw out of that same employee where would they like to see things go in the next year for their career, for their performance, after you've shared with them your vision as well, and then see how those 2 come together. And then you start setting goals together that they own. Now, if they own the goal, are they more likely to fulfill it? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And then thriving together. Sometimes when I bring this up, people are like, well, they just got their 1-year anniversary sticker from me, or their button, or their card, or hey, I told them happy birthday. What if that was the only time they heard from their leader about how they're doing? Especially if it's a good job. Are they going to feel cared for? No. So thriving together is really about finding all of those little milestones. They don't all have to be work-related either. Oh, you have a child who just graduated from high school? That's a big feat. Where are they going next? Tell me about your child. Because that's been a part of their life. The whole person involves their family life as well. You know, somebody just led their first meeting in their career here with us, and it went really well. And it ended on time, and we got everything done. We might make this person in charge of all the meetings going forward, if they want it. Or somebody finishes a project, and you celebrate that. Yeah. So finding those milestones to celebrate along the way, even lessons learned when somebody makes a mistake, is also good. So those are your 4 stages right there.